topic today is going to be a day in the life of a teenager, and I have several guests with me today that you can see on the screen. We have Alex Hinkle, Joseph Lilly, Omar Massenburg, and Katlyn Critchley joining us today. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and give us some insight on what it's like to be a teenager in our world today. So our first question is a general question, and we want to ask, what does it look like to be a teenager today? And Katlyn, we'll start with you.
So usually my day starts out with me spending like a good hour to 2 hours getting ready, because it's really all about how you look at school. So like I spend a lot of time on makeup and hair and stuff. And then the first, it's about a 30-minute drive for me to school, and I ride with friends. We usually talk and complain about school, which I guess is not ideally the best way to start your day, but that's how we start it. And then before school starts, we usually all hang out and just talk about what the day's going to be like. And I usually don't see my friends very much through the day because we don't really have any classes together, or like we don't have lunch together. So like I'll see some of them occasionally, but I usually kind of keep to myself because a lot of my classes are with like the bigger cliques. And so I just kind of absorb everything while I'm in class. And then by the end of the day, I'm usually so worn out, like just my brain doesn't want to function because like I have so many classes. Like all of my classes this year were college classes, and by the end of the day I either go to work until like 9 o'clock and don't get home until like 9:30, 10 o'clock, or I go home and do homework until like 7 o'clock, sometimes later than that, and then I go to sleep. And that's pretty much it. My day is pretty much just school when school's actually going on.
Okay. Alex?
For me, I wake up in the morning and I get ready. I usually get up about 45 minutes to an hour before I have to leave. And just like Katlyn, it takes me about 20-30 minutes to get to school from my house. So I drive my friend Nick, and we go and we just talk on the way up there. And usually in the morning we're really quiet because we're tired. And then I go through the day at school. I do my thing, classes and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, if it's football season, I will go to football practice and then get home probably 8 o'clock, eat dinner, do homework, shower, all that stuff. And if it's not football season, then I'll go to work most days and get off work at 9 or 10, go home, and then do my homework then.
Cool. Joe?
I get up around 6 o'clock in the morning and then get ready, and then it only takes me about 15 minutes or so to get to school. But once I get there, I sort of sit around and try and get ahead on the day or talk to my friends. And then I go throughout the day, go into classes and stuff. And then depending on the season, and once school's out, I'll take and go to tennis practice and get out around 6 o'clock or so. And then we come home, eat dinner, and then work on homework up until around 7, 8 o'clock. And sometimes it takes more than that, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. And I go to bed.
It sounds like we have similar patterns happening here. Omar, how about you?
Hello, by the way, before I start.
Hello.
My day starts out, I wake up, I look at the time, I go back to sleep, start out late to school. I rush to put everything in my backpack and into my practice bags for the evening ahead. I drive to school, I hang out with friends, talk to them, complete my work, Then after school is done at 3:05, I attend practice, football practice. And then when practice is done, I heal up, like take ice baths, shower, and then I go home and do absolutely nothing. Just sit at home, watch YouTube, and go to sleep.
All right. So we have pretty similar patterns. Before we go any further, will you tell us, starting with Katlyn, what school you go to and your grade level?
All right. So my name is Katlyn. I go to Rockbridge County High School, and I'm going into my senior year.
Alex?
Oh, sorry. I go to Rockbridge County High School, and I'm going to be a senior this coming year.
Joe?
I go to Rockbridge County High School, and I'm going to be a senior this year.
Omar?
Oh, my name is Omar Massenburg. I attend Perry McClure High School, and I am an upcoming senior.
All right, so we got all seniors with us today. That's great. So one of the things that we talk a lot about or hear a lot about from you guys in conversation is peer pressure. Peer pressure is nothing new. It's been around forever, since the beginning of time. But I want to kind of get some insight and perspective on what kinds of peer pressure that you face. And anything is the limit. We want to know what kind of pressures you're facing. So Katlyn, will you tell us some of the pressures that you face? And it could be decisions that you have to make as well, such as college coming up for all of you. But what are some of those pressures? What do they look like?
So there's a few. I'm going to start out with like the one that probably relates more like academically, which is like a lot of people know that I'm someone that has trouble saying no when it comes to like school stuff. And so a lot of times I get pressured into like taking on like a really big project or like joining like this club or like staying after school and helping with like a bunch of things that I'm really not interested in, but people know that I'm like, I guess, responsible enough to like take care of that. And so a lot of times I'm like pressured into doing necessarily like activities that maybe I wouldn't choose to do if like it was up to me. And also with like college coming up, my parents, well, I'm going to be a first generation college attendee, and my parents both want me to go to two different schools, and they're both pretty large schools, and I want to go to a smaller college. And so my like parents have been like kind of, I guess, pressuring me into going to like a bigger school, because one of them wants me to go to UVA and one of them wants me to go to Liberty, which are both like really big schools, and I'm not really interested in that. And then finally, another pressure is probably like, especially with all of the like the virus going on this summer and stuff, was like people trying to pressure me to like go to parties and stuff, because there have been like more parties with like all of the quarantine and stuff going on. And like due to like health reasons, I haven't been working since like April, so I've had a lot of free time, and a lot of people have like messaged me and been like, hey, you should come to this party, you know, we're gonna have like a get together. And of course I say no, but my parents also would not let me do that because they know what happens at team parties. And so that's been mostly the pressure that I've dealt with so far.
Okay. I want to take a moment and pause and say welcome to Grace Wanovich, who has joined us. Grace, we want to see your face, kiddo. So turn that camera so we can see you. All right, Alex, we'll head over to you and tell us some of the pressures that you face on a daily basis.
I try to avoid pressure as much as I can, but sometimes I get pressured into like taking somebody's shift at work and maybe like stepping in for them, or other times trying to think. There's sometimes people like want me to do like more on a project than they are, and I don't like doing that, but I do it because, well, if I don't, then I'm going to get a bad grade because they aren't doing their part, and that's how grading works.
Okay.
And in that, I really try to avoid getting like into pressured situations.
Okay. Joe?
I sort of try and avoid peer pressure situations as best I can, but I reckon the most common one for me is getting pressured into joining clubs and after school things. For example, this club. But
We hope you didn't
um,
feel pressured to join this club.
other
So
than that, there
tell us, Joe,
really isn't.
so that may not be something that uh, somebody would typically credit peer pressure to, either in a positive or negative manner, because it can be both. But so just in the pressure to join clubs, why do you think you're being pressured to join the club?
I've been sort of like an introvert, and the friends that I do have try and get me involved in other things. So, and I'm fine with it. I enjoy this club and the other clubs that I've joined, and it's gotten me out and introduced me to a lot more people. So, not that it's bad. It's just I wasn't initially interested in joining some of these clubs.
Okay. So you would say that the pressure you experienced has been more positive than negative.
Yeah, I would say positive.
Yeah, and that's good. I'm glad you brought that up, because the introvert extrovert dichotomy that we hear a lot about is not something that we normally hear when talking about peer pressure, but it's something that we don't understand. And I think especially as students, there are personality clashes that can happen because we don't understand um, somebody's personality type, or somebody may think that you don't want to talk to people or have friends because you're more introverted, but that's not the case, is it? It's just that you just don't necessarily need to be around people, where me and Alex, for example, are extreme extroverts. We can walk into a room and pretty much talk to anybody at any moment. So that's a very different thing. So I'm glad you brought that up. Omar, what are your thoughts?
A lot like Joseph, to a regard, what I commonly go for when it comes to peer pressure is trying to be like them. It's like they want me, like they would choose not to be my friend if I don't agree with everything they do. For instance, if I didn't run a mile, let's just say something like that. If they wanted to run a mile and I said I'm not doing that because I have other things to do, instant not friends. We don't like done. I'm not cool enough to hang out with them because I'm not trying to be exactly like them. If I'm not my own individual, then forget you, man. Then you don't matter. And like all circumstances like that, it's just if I don't try and become them, they don't want me as a friend. So it makes me more inclined to, okay, well, I don't want to be that guy that doesn't have any friends. So let me just keep going what they do, and then maybe I'll be able to fit in. And that's just a huge problem I'm starting to face more and more.
Sure. So in that regard, do any of the rest of you have a similar case where you feel pressure on either your image or individuality, who you are, because of wanting to fit in? You're all shaking their heads. Do any of you want to share? Go ahead, Katlyn.
For like me personally, I am kind of a quiet person, and in my friend group, they're all very like bubbly and loud, and so sometimes like like I'll kind of like not be in the friend group because I'm like so quiet and reserved, and like that's not what they want. They want someone who's like loud and bubbly. But also with like political stuff, I have like a completely different view than most of my friends, and I don't share it because like I know that they're gonna make fun of me. So a lot of times I find myself like agreeing with them just to keep like the peace, but then I kind of feel guilty after. Like I'm like, well, that's not really how I feel. Like I should express how I feel. But I know that if I express how I feel, then they're gonna either be like, we're not gonna be friends anymore, or they're gonna like tease me about it, because that's kind of the world we live in now, that if you don't agree with each other, then you can't be friends. And that's kind of how their mindset is. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Grace, are you there? Oh, hey. So we want to have you add to the conversation, and first of all, tell us your name, what school you go to, what grade you're in, and then I'll get to the question.
Okay, I'm Grace Wanovich. I go to Rockbridge County High School, and I'm a rising senior.
Awesome. We got another senior with us today. Grace, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So what we've been talking about so far is the idea of peer pressure, whether positive or negative, and some of the pressures that you face when you go to school, or even just when you're out with your friends.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, like peer pressure in my friend group, is there's definitely like a big divide on the way like people choose to live and like how their parents are letting them live. So I think that's kind of like a big thing of like, how do I handle that as like being their friend? How do I help them in situations that like I don't want to be involved in, but like also want to help and like support them through it. I find that, I don't know if that's really peer pressure, but it's like, it definitely creates, it puts pressure on me to like try and be, try and see things from their point of view that I like normally wouldn't see.
Sure. It's good. So all of you have made some really good statements. Thank you for sharing those. So I want to, along that same line, just from a head nod or a thumbs up or a wave or something like that, will you tell us if you have experienced pressure to not just go to a party, but to drink alcohol or use a tobacco or a vape device or marijuana or something harder? Have any of you experienced that kind of pressure? It's got to be a big head nod if you're nodding, or raise your hand or do something. Okay, good. So we definitely know that vaping, specifically juuling, has been a big topic of conversation over the last year, and all those kind of things. Are you finding, just in general, friends or school classmates are using them? And what kind of reaction or response do you see from people who are using versus people who are not using this? Go ahead, Omar.
All right, cool. Along with that, there are new things out now, sir. They're called puff bars that people are using now. And the difference I'm starting to see, the people who are using them to like block something going on in their life. Like they smoke because they're having problems with their home life and they just don't want to deal with this. And they think, hey, this is the outlet I can use. But the people who are not using, I'm finding out that they're more happy. They're happier. They're like actually enjoying life instead of just being sad by it, and they're using it.
All right. So Omar, I'm in the prevention world. I'm kind of up to date on some of these new things that are coming out, but there may be some people out there watching right now that have no idea what a puff bar is. So tell us what a puff bar is. What does it look like?
I'll do my best to just. All right. It's like a e-cigarette, and it has flavors. It comes in flavor packets, like flavors. Like you can get a box and it has a specific flavor. So like strawberry, whatever. And that's kind of what it is with a name like that.
Okay, so puff bar, I assume you like inhale it or smoke it, something like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else seeing this? Hands up, thumbs down. So it's relatively new to the market, and our area definitely kind of sees a slower influx of these kind of things. But thanks for making us aware of that, Omar. So I want to tag on to one of the things that you said, because you said, there may be some students who are using puff bars to kind of help with home situations. So that leads me to the topic on stress. Now, in some of our SURFA meetings that we've had, which you all are involved in, a big portion of conversation has been related to stress and the amount of work and the amount of time that you put in for athletics and clubs, and it seems overwhelming, and like there's just not enough time to be a kid. And that's based off of things that I've heard some of you say, kind of put together. So let's I want to start with Grace this time. Grace, tell us, are you stressed, first of all, with the workload that you've had previously? And how do you deal with that? What does that look like for you?
Are you talking about before like COVID?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk pre-COVID, and then we'll add COVID into the mix here in a second.
Okay, so definitely before COVID, my whole life, it was just like wake up, go to school, like homework, and then like after school, go to dance, like dance, and then get home and up like super late, trying to do homework, getting in papers, like, studying for 3 quizzes, 2 tests, just every day, like all day. And that's all like life really was letting me do, like on the weekends. And I was working on a Saturday, like Sunday was truly my only like day off. And even then I would like put things on a Sunday so that I was constantly doing something. So I think like my biggest like coping, I don't know. I think I would just try and find like small moments and be like, okay, this is not like junior year is not your whole life, like high school is not everything. And like it takes like a long time to realize that, and like you don't feel it kind of in the like day-to-day life, but when you like stop even for 10 seconds and just like say, okay, like it's okay, like I'm, that one paper, like it really didn't matter, like then you can be like, friends are like a great support system, and like family, and just like talking it out. I know like I just rant things out all in like 30 minutes, and then after I'm like, okay, I'm good, and like move on. So I just think like getting it out and then moving on is like my best way.
Awesome. All right, Alex, we'll go to you next.
For me, with sports, during the sports season, I feel like I leave my house like 7 o'clock and don't get home until like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock the next time that it happens. And being away from home for 12, 13 hours a day, it's not good because you don't have time to do anything else. You spend 8 hours sleeping and 12 hours away from home, then that leaves you like 4 hours left to do homework and eat and shower and do the things you got to do, and you don't have time to relax.
Yeah.
That's just how it is for me. And it builds up some stress because you don't have time to relax and unwind and relieve it, and that's what I need.
Sure. So, Alex, that's a good point. Tell me, so basically 7 to 7 is kind of your school day, and that doesn't include homework at that point in time. But um, say during your football season, which you're getting ready to start here, during that football season, if you don't take time to, first of all, recognize that that you need rest and take adequate time to rest, how does that affect you in the days and weeks to come, especially during the school day?
Um, One more time. Sorry. Can you ask that one more time? I didn't catch the question.
Sure. So like knowing during your football season that you spend a lot of time away from home and have limited time to do homework, recognizing that you need rest is important. And it sounds like that you do that, but have you noticed what happens to you in the days to come, especially during the school day, if you've not taken adequate rest?
I noticed that as the week goes on and I get less and less rest, I get more and more tired earlier in the day, and it makes it harder to like eat as much food and stuff like that.
Mm,
So as the week goes on, I eat less and get tired earlier.
okay. Alex or Joe, sorry.
Um, Stress wise, I try and avoid it in every way that I can. And I know it builds up and sometimes you can tell, but I just try and ignore it and move on because I got pretty good at like ignoring pain and stuff and just moving on.
Okay.
So
So is it that you're actually ignoring it, or that you have found a way to cope with pain or stress and work through it so that you don't have to carry it with you?
it's probably more the latter
Okay.
of what you were saying, but in layman's term, I sort of ignore it.
All right. Caitlin, how about you?
For me, I stress extremely easily. I am like really stressed all the time. And I like write a lot of like my problems down in like a journal, or I clean. Cleaning helps me a lot. But kind of touching on like the thing that Alex said, I feel like my like home life is really affected by like the lack of time I have. Like the stress in like my family goes up a lot because like I don't get to see my like most of my family because they live out of state and I don't have time, so I don't get to see like my siblings and like my real dad. I don't get to see them, and I feel like I'm gone all the time. And then when I get home, I'm so like aggravated and tired that I like don't get to talk to my mom or my stepdad or my little sister, and I feel like it strains our relationship a lot. And there's like a lot of like arguing and stuff, especially when like I'm gone all day and I don't get home until like 9 o'clock, and my stepdad's gone all day and it's just my mom, and there's like a lot of stress and arguing a lot during times like that. And especially when you live in a household where people don't really cope with stress well, and I think that it's just very hard on a family.
Okay. All right, Omar.
Could you re-ask the question?
I can. We're talking about stress and kind of how you cope with it, or what kind of stresses that you face throughout your day or a season.
All right, thank you, sir. Well, as an overthinker, I can stress any situation, so that makes it every day a struggle. But mostly I'm starting to have more stress with focusing on sports in college. I've always been stressing about that, and the more that I'm not better enough than other people is I'm compare people to myself. awful, I know. And that's what makes me the most stressful. It's like, if I'm not this person, then how am I going to succeed in life? If I'm not this speed, this weight, this height, how am I going to be who I want to be or how I can be? And that's just something I stress the most about with sports. Academically, if I'm not, I compare myself to other people. If I'm not this person's intellect, like the same, then how am I smart? If I'm not like this person, if I don't study like this individual, how am I a person that should consider themselves smart? And it's just, the more I overthink everything and the more I try and compare myself to other people, that's like, oh, wow. Like, come on, man, what are you going to do? And for me, a coping mechanism I've started to use more recently is I work out more. I lift weights, I run, I walk, I listen to ebooks. That's what's helping me more cope instead of doing dangerous habits like I have been doing in the past. But yes, sir.
Cool. Thanks for sharing, Omar. Guys, this is great conversation, and I know our time is limited, but one thing that I want to ask, and I will take this moment to say this can be a free-for-all. So feel free to interject at will. But something that I have been curious about, and I know we've talked about in the past, is what is something that either teachers or parents or administrators of the school, what is something that they need to know? Maybe something that annoys you or bothers you about school, or that really makes you upset, that if you could say, this one thing I want to change right now and I'll do whatever it takes. What's that one thing that you want us to know, that we can help you or have conversations with you about, this one thing that just bothers you? So I'll just leave it up to anybody and you can kick it off. Okay, Omar, start us off.
If I could tell any teacher, I would want them to understand the student more instead of just teaching. Like, some kids have different backgrounds, and that's why they can't perform at the certain level. And they're having home issues, and it's just, sometimes teachers aren't focused on the student at all. It's just their job. They need that paycheck, and that's all they come in for. In, out, and not even the student, how they can impact the student sometimes.
Okay. Anybody else? You're all going to share.
I think like it's kind of like something for teachers and like administration is just that we're not like tired and we're not lazy and we're not like not paying attention, but we're like tired, and like we need, when we're being a little bit slow some days, or sometimes it's hard to like get us to pay attention, or we kind of are like not putting in our best effort. It's not that we're not like trying, it's that we're tired and we're stressed and we can't focus. And some people have really bad anxiety and depression, and that kind of gets ignored. And if a teacher is like, hey, come do this, and I'm having like a bad day and I'm like really stressed out, and they're like, hey, will you come in front of the class and like talk about this, like that is not good. Like that can make people have like anxiety attacks, like panic attacks and stuff, and just make them feel more down about themselves. So I think that like just because it doesn't look like we're paying attention, or it doesn't feel like we're putting our best effort, that doesn't mean that we aren't. It just means that we might be having like a rough time. And yeah.
Right. So similar statements from you and Omar. So here's a question anybody can chime in on, but especially for you guys. So I'm teaching a history class, and as a teacher, my goal is to teach. I definitely want to know my students and help them in whatever way that I can, but I have a responsibility to teach a class. How in a classroom setting can I take the time to know that I shouldn't call on you? Because I think that's probably something that a teacher or even a parent for that matter may think. When you come into my classroom, I'm there to teach you history, and to help you learn history so that you can pass the test, do the grade, and obviously there are more reasons behind there. But how can I better recognize as a teacher if I call on you and say, hey, Katlyn, why don't you come up and tell us about, some person in history, and you've had a bad day or you had a rough night at work. How in that moment do I discern that maybe I should go to somebody else?
Well, I think one thing that's important is body language. I think that's something teachers can, if you call on someone, you can pretty easily tell that they're uncomfortable. But I also am a firm believer in I know that the school day is short and it's really hard to teach the material, but I'm a really firm believer, and I think that teachers should give either a debriefing time at the end of class or a little bit of time at the beginning of class, whether it's just 3 to 5 minutes of a small span of time, either before or after class, just for the kids to have as their own personal time. And I know that can be really difficult for teachers because they are trying to teach on a deadline. But I think that would help a lot. Even that 3 minutes can help someone. A lot of teachers start right at the bell and they go until the bell rings at the end of class. And that can be really overwhelming, especially when you're rushing to get to one class. Because 4 minutes seems like a long time, but it's really not if you're having to go across the school. And so you're rushing and it just kind of seems like your life is just going and you don't really have control of it. So I think that providing that time is really something that can really help. But
okay. That's good. Omar, what are your thoughts?
A lot like Katlyn was saying, body language. But as a teacher, if you're looking and you give out a worksheet and you're giving them to time to work on it, you can observe their body language while they're doing it. Some kids could be more closed in, more out, But just observing, be more observant. That's what's up. I know you're already being more observant because you're a teacher, but taking that extra step, just observing everything. Okay, well, this person is more inclined, and you can learn more about it, more inwards. And I think that's just something that could help the most. Just body language first off.
Okay. All right, Grace, what do you think?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing, okay, maybe it's just me because I'm me, but I feel when I'm having a really good day and I'm not letting things get to me, I'm super bubbly and I walk into class differently. I I say hi to people. I am I'm overjoyed. People probably think I'm weird, but I'm good morning, and then when I'm not having or when I'm super stressed out and I had a meeting in the morning or something like that, I walk into class, I don't say anything to anyone, and I go sit and I just I stress. And I think those are just little things. And again, it's not going to take the first day of school to know your student and know that's how they are, but I think it's just that little thing is a pretty big thing of a teacher to be wait, hi. I remember my photo teacher, I would, I'd have a really good day and I'd say hi to him and whatever. And then if I had a really bad meeting, I'd rant to my mom, and then I'd walk right past him and he'd be good morning. And he'd be and I'd have to say, and I'd be good morning and walk in. But that's just, I think that was maybe that was his way of getting me to loosen up or but it definitely, it was he knew and was trying to get me to kind of come back to it. So I think that's kind
Good.
of a thing, but I don't know.
Good. Joe?
As for what a teacher could do,
Teacher or parent?
yeah, I just probably look at, of course, the body language and just pay attention to their attitudes on good days and compare those to the days that, well, the day that you're on, and see how it compares. Like if the person seems more depressed, then maybe try and go out of your way to see what's going on, or just try and cheer them up a little. If it's nothing but just saying like goodbye to them at the end of the class, or have a nice day, or just during class walking by and seeing if everything's all right. But and then parents can do the same thing, but just not at the end of class. Of course, they're not going to be at class. But like when you walk in the door at home, if you seem like you're dragging tail, it's like your backpack looks like it's weighing 35,000 tons on your back. When you walk in, it's like, yeah, they had a rough day. Let's see what we can do to help.
Yeah.
But if
So
they walk in bubbly, then yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I wanted to ask this question because it seems like a big part of what has been said is taking the extra time to build relationship is kind of the theme that I'm hearing in this. So I want to throw a wrench in the relationship training that we have going and say, because I know when we go to surfer meetings, this happens all the time. The most common question asked all across the world when you come home from school is, how was your day? A typical response from a teenager is fine, good, or awful. And then there's no conversation that happens. As an adult, as a parent, as a teacher, it's difficult to ask the question and have a conversation, hey, how are you doing? Because either A, you may say a one-liner, it was terrible, and go to your room, and we won't see you the rest of the night because you're trying to cope up with yourself. Or as a teacher, you may say, it's good, it's rough, it sucks, and then you walk down the hall and I don't have a chance to have a conversation. Even if I want to have a conversation, oftentimes the conversation is kind of left in a one word, one phrase kind of statement. So if you want us to know that something is wrong, and I'm not saying that you don't, because what you're saying is you'd like us to take a little bit more effort or step in having conversation, building relationship. In that commonality though, how do I break the barrier of that it's fine to go deeper beyond that, to bring about a conversation where you will express what's truly going on, whether it's good or bad? How do we get beyond that? And Alex, I'll start with you in this.
So if you ask a broad question, you're more than likely going to get a one-liner. If you ask a question that's going to require a more specific answer, you're going to get one. So instead of how was your day, ask, hey, what did you do today? Or did you do this today? And see if they did anything fun or stuff like that. Or ask about something that you knew was supposed to happen that day and ask how it went. Or ask what happened at that thing that was supposed to happen. And then you're going to get a longer, more in-depth response that you can use to start a conversation.
Okay. So you're saying be more specific in your question that generates a response. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I think I find like, how is your day? I feel like it is like someone asking, like how are you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you? And like, how is your day? Kind of like they are taking a step of like caring about like you. Um, so I think like I noticed that, but I think one of the biggest thing is like I'm not. I like need that like, well, I don't know, like just like kind of, yeah, going off of what Alex was saying is like a deeper and like more personal connection of like I want to know like you, like don't be like how's your day, like it's I what I'm thinking is like there, but it's hard to put into words. It's like just like saying something about like, or okay, so maybe not even asking about how their day was, but just being like, hey, like you look nice, or like something to like maybe make them feel better, and like that's about like them, and like will make them feel better. I don't think I answered that right, but just like more interest, and like that'll make them be like, hey, like that teacher was nice, or like, hey, like I could be chill with them, or like I could actually open up to them, things like that. I don't think that really answered it.
So, so Grace, I've known you the entire time that I have lived in Rockbridge County, which is almost 3 years at this point in time. So, for example, from us, something that we're saying, I currently know where you are, and that you're on vacation for like ever, which is super cool. And when you come back, I typically ask, so what was your favorite part of your trip? And did you get any cool stickers and things like that, which are very specific questions that I have taken interest in something that you have done. So is what you were saying, looking for something specific like that, like tell me about a cool sticker that you got while you were on vacation. That not only is showing that I'm caring, but that gives you an opportunity to have a conversation and then expand on that based on what you want to share. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think Omar has his hand up, and then we'll go to Katlyn. Omar, hang on a second. You're muted. I gotcha.
My bad. I looked and I was speaking. I apologize. But to answer your question, I feel like if you ask, how was your day? How are you? I think it's just our fault for not communicating it back to you. I think it's not our, like, we're not being socially, like, we're not being social. We're just saying, okay, cool. But a part of what Wanovich was saying before, a deeper connection, a better connection, I believe that can, like, have a big impact. But I guess us just being more social, understanding, like, okay, well, this person means well, and he's asking us if we are okay. Like, why keep holding it in to ourselves? Just say, I'm not doing the best today. I just had such and such happen, and I think it's just our fault for not, like, opening up more.
Okay, that's good perspective. All right, Katlyn.
See, I kind of like, I don't know. I think it's like a common misconception that like teenagers don't want people to know how they feel. Like when you talk about like a stereotypical teenager, they're like, oh, they're all like closed in, and they're all, like teenagers are going through a lot of stuff and they don't want to talk about it. And I don't think it's so much that we don't want to talk about it, because I know for sure for me, when people ask me how I'm doing, I usually always say fine, unless it's like someone that I'm like, I know like personally, like I'm close with. But I think that we've kind of been trained by society, and this might be a leap, but I feel like we've been trained to always just kind of, when we're in school, we always put the school first, like the school work first. And so I think that my mind is wired to where, yeah, I'm in school, but like my personal like matters really don't matter. Like I'm here to learn, and that's about it. And so I think that's like a problem with like teenagers, is that we like, I guess it's how do you say that word? Compartmentalization.
Compartmentalize, yes.
Yeah. I think that we do that because we've always been like, ever since we've been in school, we've always kind of been taught to do that, where it's like school is for school, and it's not really a place to talk about like our personal business and personal matters. And I think that's part of the problem. But
All right.
yeah.
So you have a personal problem and you're in the middle of your school day. Do you feel like you have somebody you can talk to, Katlyn? And
I
I'm not
mean,
looking for a name. I'm just, is there
yeah.
an individual or two, whether it's a counselor or a teacher or an admin person? Do you have somebody that you feel like I can go talk to this and share what's going on with me truly?
That's like, it depends on the time, because like I did the past, like my freshman and sophomore year, I struggled a lot with like my mental health, and I really didn't have anyone. But last year I did become close to my counselor. But the only problem with that is that she's so busy that every time I would need to talk to her, she would be like in a meeting or like doing this or doing that. She wasn't there. So like I couldn't really talk to her. So like it sounds really sad, but like a lot of times as a teenager, as a girl teenager, I will go into the bathroom and just cry, and it's not just me in there crying, which like opened my eyes a lot this year because I like have really bad like panic attacks and stuff, and that's where I would go, is in the bathroom. And at first I thought, it's just me that's dealing with that. But then this year I realized like there's more people than just me that don't feel like they have someone to talk to, and they're in the bathrooms as well crying because they don't really have like a support system. And yeah.
Okay. All right, Alex, I see that hand.
Yeah, I have to get ready for work. It was
Okay,
good
buddy.
to talk to you guys. See ya.
Yep. Thanks, Alex.
Yep.
You have to go too, Joe? Oh, you just waving bye to Alex. So we are going to have to wrap up here. But Grace, I saw you shake your head about the crying in the bathroom scenario. I don't know if Joe or Omar has had that experience. But guys, do you feel like you have somebody at school that you can talk to if you have something that you're going through? All right. I got a thumbs up from Omar. Joe, do you have somebody? Yes, maybe so. Okay. Cool. Well, I know our conversation has been really great, and I wish we could go longer because I'd love to make this a much longer session and just talk about several things, because there's some other things that I would have really liked to discuss. But just in one final closing piece, as it pertains to looking back on your school career, since all of you are going to be seniors, in 10 words or less, what wisdom would you pass on to your freshman self? That's kind of a deep thought. But in about 10 words or less, what is wisdom that if you could go back in time and share with your freshman self, what would you say?
Can I go?
Yes.
Can I give like 2 phrases?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay. So the first one would be, it's not the end of the world. That's definitely my first one. And then the second one would be like, take advantage of every like smile and moment of laughter.
It's good. All right. Who's next?
I can go. So I think I'm gonna do two because I can't narrow it down. But I think the first one's probably stop trying so hard to fit in. And the other one would probably be similar to Grace's, where it's like take advantage of every opportunity you have because you never know when it's all gonna like go away. Especially with like this virus going on, and yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Omar.
Sometimes the friends you want are not the friends that you need.
Well said, sir. Well said.